This is Hazel. Hazel just got her first haircut, and she might be a little tender, so if you hear her yelp, it's because she's a little tender from that. This is a video where we're going to cover tips and tricks for potty training, or remedial potty training, because she's a mature puppy at this point, almost a year. So I'm going to ask the guardians, normally I would ask this ahead of time, but what is her word to go potty?
Potty.
How do we assign that word? Do we just kind of go outside and say, go make a potty?
Yes.
So like I talked about earlier off camera, we have to put things in context for dogs to understand. So for potty training, what you want to do is I would come up with a completely new word for her. I say business. I have, and people use, whatever word you want. Use a word that's funny. I have some clients that are Jewish. They immigrated from Russia because Putin was not very good to Jewish people. Their word to have their dog poop is Putin. And they live in a very heavily Jewish part of LA. Their friends, their neighbors laugh a lot. So let's say we're going to use the word business. So I go outside at the times the dog is going to be apt to need to go and have an elimination. And so I'll tell you what those are in a minute. So I go outside and I follow the dog every time it potties for a week. So somebody needs to take her outside with her. And what I do is I go outside, and as soon as she starts to pee or poop, I don't tell her to pee or poop. I just wait. As soon as she starts to pee or poop, I would say the word business once in a normal tone of voice. Usually our dog's having accidents in the house, they start doing this thing, business! Yeah. And you'll, just like we see a spike of energy, you'll stop them from interrupting from emptying their bladder, and they'll come in and have an accident. So when they start peeing or pooping, we say business in a normal tone of voice. When they get done, in 3 seconds, we pop the treat in their mouth and say business. So the first way associates the word with the act of elimination. The second time we say it associates the word with the reward. Now, after enough repetitions, the dog's like, if I pee inside, I don't get paid at all. But if I pee outside, I get the most delicious chicken liver or cheddar treat or whatever it is. I have now a motivation to go outside. Now, part of the reason why I think she pees inside is because it's wintertime. I know this has been going on for a while, but she doesn't really, none of the dogs have any rules or structure. And so in their mind, I think this is their house. And dogs just generally let it rip. They don't do in their den, but everywhere else they just kind of pee or poop wherever. So when we ask them to live in our house, we have to explain what our rules are. As soon as they start peeing or pooping, we say the command word. As soon as they get done, we pop the treat in their mouth and have a treat with you. And it should be a good treat, especially for her. It should be a meat-based treat or a cheese-based treat, something she really likes. And that way it associates it. Now, a couple of the mistakes people make. They take their dog outside for an hour, they comes inside, and then it has an accident, and they're like, what'd you do that for? You were out for an hour. If they go out there and they're out there for longer than 5 minutes and they don't go, they're distracted. It's not urgent enough for them to go, and they're distracted by all the stimulation that's outside. And so I take the dog out, give it 5 minutes. If it doesn't do its business, I bring it back inside, and I would carry it. Since she will pee on the floor and around you, I would carry her for the next 15 minutes. And if she starts protesting at any point, that's probably her way of saying, I want to go outside. So if she protests, then I would take her outside then, or wait the 15 minutes is complete, take her outside and give her another 5 minutes to go. And if she doesn't, bring her back inside and we carry her. So we keep repeating this process because we know she's loaded. As soon as she starts to pee or poop when she's outside, we say the command word like I talked about earlier. Now when she comes inside, she gets freedom again because now she doesn't have that. Now, the guardians also free feed their dogs. And this is problematic because dogs' digestive tract is pretty consistent. It's usually about 8 hours for solids, except for when they sleep, which kind of affects it. Now, dogs sleep 17 hours a day, so there's a lot of sleeping that's going on. But basically, if they're eating at various periods of time, the poop is going to come out at various points of time as well. If we go to a structured schedule and we start a journal, after a while we'll start noticing she always pees between 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning. Or poops, excuse me. Peeing is going to happen throughout the day. All right. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the feeding schedule. Because sometimes people feed their dogs in a time where the dog can't hold it. And then they have an accident. And so what we want to do is adjust that feeding time so it's an appropriate amount of time for the dog to be able to hold it. And then we can eliminate that a little bit. Now, for dogs, the 3 times that they're apt to go is right after waking up, 5 minutes after eating, and 15 minutes after the start of heavy playtime. Those are the 3 times that they're most apt to go. Now, when I'm potty trained, though, I would take the dog out once an hour. Like at the top of the hour, the bottom of the hour, just set yourself a timer for a week. And so the idea is we want to put the dog in a position at the times that it needs to go, we want to put it in the right position. So I just let it rip, and then I get all these treats. I'll talk about the bonus of treats here in a second. So that way, by taking it out that often, hopefully we're going to, at the times the dog's needing to go, we're in a position where we can reward it. Now, the other mistakes that people make is they catch the dog in the act of having an accident, and they're like, no, bad dog, stop, stop, stop. Well, what we mean to say is we're a bad dog for going inside the house. We don't want you to pee in the house or poop in the house. What the dog hears is the humans get pissed when I have to potty. But guess what? I got to potty like 5 to 7 times a day. So instead of telling the humans I have to potty, I'm going to run behind the couch and do it somewhere else. This is also the same effect that you get if you rub your dog's nose in it. It's been clinically proven to make it harder to potty train. And so if you were over there with your 2 roommates, it would make a perfect picture. So basically what we want to do is give the dog the, not pollute the word. And for you guys, like I said, I would come up with a completely new word. Now the last mistake that most people make is the rubbing the dog's nose in it. Like I said, it causes problems. Now, what I do is I want my dog to pee or poop in a certain part of the yard. And to achieve this, what I do, and I know the guardians here are looking at me like, we just don't want the dog to do it at the house, but you might want to get it in a certain spot. Their mother will teach them to not potty right by the nest, to move further away. So what I would do is take her on a leash outside for the first week, every single time she goes out to potty. And then I take her out for a week. All right, you're going to go there. I do have treats. Look who's a little bit more motivated when we see that somebody else might get the treat. We'll put it right up there. So what we do is here we go, motivation. Is I take the dog out on a leash and I have 5 of these treats with me. And again, this should be like a meat-based treat, something that has a strong aroma. So take it to the area that the dog wants to go. And once you get there, you kind of stand in place and you let the dog rotate however long the leash is in that area. So probably like a 5 or 6 square foot circle. And anytime they poop in that or pee in that spot, we give them the treat like we normally did. Do that for a week. The second week, what I do is I walk the dog to that same location, but off leash. And the dog knows that I have treats, that's okay. And when I get to that area, if the dog pees in that same circumference, now it has the ability to go elsewhere, but if it goes in that same area, I give it a jackpot. I would give it 5 treats. I would be like, business, business. So you're saying the word after it goes in their mouth. And so they're gonna hear business 5 times. We want the dog to be like, holy cow, what did I just do? I just got the mother load of treats. I got to remember what that is so I can get those again. So I would just support her a little bit lower. There you go. There you go. All right. And so after doing this and they get the jackpot of these, one good treat if I go anywhere, but if I go in this area, special area, I get 5 treats. Now we're giving the dog more and more incentive to go outside instead of going inside. And now one last thing I'm going to say about this. A lot of people confuse potty training or accidents with marking. These are female dogs, but some female dogs will mark. Marking is typically done on a cornered area. It's usually a sprink, a couple of drots, not a lot. Potty is typically more volume, and it's kind of all over the place. Now, if the guardians mentioned off camera, so she'll do it in front of you guys, correct?
Yes.
So I'm guessing that you guys didn't associate a word with her properly and didn't give her proper motivation to want to go outside. Do we do any of the negative things we talked about?
Yes.
Okay. So we don't want to, so that can create some problems. And so we want to avoid doing those things and really dogs learn about 75% faster through positive reinforcement. So now, does she have a kennel?
We have one, but we don't put her.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes people will put the dog, when they bring it inside, if you don't want to carry it around, we'll put it on a leash and tie it to the waist, but since she'll pee anytime she needs to go, the idea is we want to kind of eliminate her ability to by carrying her or putting her in a kennel. Most dogs won't poop or pee in the kennel. Now, one last little trick that you can do, as long as you're going to be there for at least 45 minutes after you feed them, for dogs, water fluids are usually about 45 minutes before the dog's ready to expel them. So what I do when I'm potty training a really difficult dog is I'll take their kibble and I'll put warm water in with the kibble about an hour before I'm feeding them, just so it's floating, barely floating in it. Then I swirl it around, and then an hour later, you go, there'll be no water. It's all absorbed in the kibble, and the key pieces will be bigger. Then I put even more, for her case, I maybe a cup of hot water in with her food, warm water. So she has to drink that water first, and then the food is saturated with water. And then I know now within 45 minutes she has to potty. So maybe after that, maybe I spend about 10 or 15 minutes holding her until she starts protesting a little bit and then take her outside. Now I know that she's more in a realm of where she's going to need to go potty, and I can reward her richly for doing that. Don't do this if you're not going to be around for 45 minutes to an hour afterwards, because then she's going to be loaded and she's going to practice going in the house. Now, one last little thing we talk about for dog behavior, which is maintenance. If a dog is making a mistake, we want to prevent them from making that same mistake. So if there are certain areas or parts of the house that she has accidents in, I might start restricting them. Try to keep her exclusively in the room that you're in, so you're closer to her. Now, sometimes they'll, when they're going to pee, they'll sniff the ground and back and forth, or poop. They'll kind of go back and forth, the same thing. You'll start noticing that's the benefit of taking her outside every time for a week. Watch her as before she starts going. She's going to show you certain body languages, and after a while, you'll get to recognize what those are. And you'll know, oh, she looks like she sniffed the ground. She might need to go potty. One last little thing is if the dog's sitting here and all of a sudden it just gets up and runs like a shot to the other side of the room, a lot of times that means they need to poop. So these are some tips and tricks that you can do to help your dog stop having accidents in the house.